You've been tolerating behavior that would make a Stoic philosopher weep, and I'm going to tell you something that might disturb you deeply. The very compassion you think is saving your relationship is precisely what's destroying it. But here's what terrifies me most about what I'm about to reveal. Most men won't believe me until it's too late, until they've watched years of their lives evaporate in relationships where they were never truly seen as men. And the most dangerous part? You already know I'm right. You can feel it in your chest right now. That tightening sensation when she speaks to you in that tone. When she cancels again. When she treats her friends with more respect than she treats you. Listen carefully because what I'm about to share isn't just relationship advice. It's a roadmap to reclaiming the masculine authority that society has systematically conditioned you to surrender. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand the neurobiological mechanisms behind female attraction, why women unconsciously test your boundaries, and most critically, how to establish genuine leadership without becoming the tyrant you rightfully fear becoming. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding truth. And truth, as I've always maintained, is the only foundation upon which authentic relationships can be built. The stakes? Your self-respect, your capacity for genuine connection, and ultimately, your ability to build the life you're actually capable of living. But before we dive into the practical applications, we need to understand something fundamental about human nature that most modern discourse completely ignores. Now, let's talk about something that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the price of truth. Women test men constantly. Not because they're malicious, not because they've read some handbook on how to torment you, but because they're running ancient evolutionary software in a modern world. These tests are assessment protocols, if you will, designed to answer a fundamental question that their ancestors have been asking for hundreds of thousands of years. Can this man provide security when chaos emerges? And here's where it gets fascinating from a neuroscience perspective. When a woman encounters a man who holds his boundaries, who says no when he means no, who doesn't apologize for his existence, her brain lights up in very specific ways. The ventral tegmental area increases dopamine production. Why? Because unpredictability combined with stability is the evolutionary jackpot. You're unpredictable enough to be interesting, but stable enough to be reliable. That's the balance that generates attraction at the neurobiological level. What modern discourse misses entirely is this. Respect isn't just some abstract virtue. It's a prerequisite for safety in the female psyche. When she respects you, her amygdala calms down. She can actually relax. And only when she can relax into that sense of safety can genuine feminine energy emerge. Without respect, you're dealing with a woman who's essentially in a constant state of low-level threat assessment. And let me tell you, there's no attraction in that dynamic, only anxiety. So you've been taught, and I want to be very precise about this, that being agreeable, being accommodating, being what society calls a good man will make you attractive. This is perhaps one of the most catastrophic lies ever told to young men. And I say this as someone who values compassion deeply. But there's a massive difference between genuine compassion and the people-pleasing behavior that masquerades as compassion. When you agree with everything she says, when you rearrange your entire life around her schedule, when you apologize for having needs, you think you're communicating that you're caring. But here's what she's actually receiving. This man has no center. This man has no standards. This man's approval can be purchased with the smallest amount of female attention. And that, gentlemen, is the signal of desperation, not desirability. You've essentially told her that your time, your goals, your very existence is worth less than her fleeting approval. And then, and this is where it becomes truly tragic, you enter what I call the accommodation spiral. The less she respects you, the worse she treats you. The worse she treats you, the more you accommodate, thinking somehow that more niceness will fix it. But you're actually reinforcing the very dynamic that's harming the relationship. You're teaching her through your behavior that you're a man without boundaries, and a man without boundaries is a man without form. And a man without form cannot be attractive because attraction requires definition, requires edges, requires the willingness to say, "This is where I stand." The ancient Stoics understood something profound that we've forgotten. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical psychology. When you anchor your self-worth in your own internal standards rather than her approval, something remarkable happens. You become unshakable. Not rigid, unshakable. There's a difference. Epictetus said that no man is free who is not master of himself. And this is the crux of the matter. If you cannot respect yourself, if you cannot maintain your own boundaries, then you cannot expect anyone else to respect you, least of all a woman you're romantically involved with. Respect flows from the inside out, never the reverse. When you start compromising your values for her approval, you're not being compassionate, you're being cowardly. And women can sense cowardice the way predators sense fear. Here's the paradox that confuses most men. When you're willing to walk away from her, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect, you become more attractive, not less. Because walking away communicates something profound. I value myself enough to choose solitude over disrespect. And that level of self-governance is rare. It's attractive because it suggests competence, suggests that you could handle not just relationship challenges, but life challenges. That's the Stoic path. Be so grounded in your own worth that external chaos cannot destabilize you. Now, let's be absolutely clear about this because the waters have been muddied considerably. When I talk about masculine leadership, I am not talking about domination. I'm not talking about controlling behavior. I'm not talking about treating women as inferior. That's not leadership, that's tyranny born from insecurity. Real leadership is taking responsibility for outcomes. It's the willingness to make decisions when decisions need to be made. It's the capacity to maintain your frame when everyone around you is losing theirs. Leadership means you're the first one to take responsibility when things go wrong, and the last one to take credit when things go right. It means you create structure where there would otherwise be chaos. It means you set the emotional tone. If you're anxious, she'll be anxious. If you're calm, she can relax. That's not power over her, that's power for the relationship. You're providing something of immense value, stability in an unstable world. And women are absolutely starving for that right now, whether they consciously realize it or not. The ancient concept was that the king serves the kingdom, the leader serves those he leads. But, and this is crucial, you cannot serve from a position of weakness. You cannot give what you don't have. If you're depleted, boundaryless, resentful, you have nothing to offer. Leadership requires you to be so full, so grounded, so clear about your values that you can provide direction without needing her validation. That's the service of strength, being strong enough that others can be weak around you when they need to be. So let's get practical. When she cancels on you last minute, and listen to how you respond, you don't get angry, you don't passive-aggressively punish her, and you certainly don't say it's fine when it's not fine. You say, I understand things come up. In the future, I need more notice. My time is valuable and I plan my day accordingly. Notice the frame. You're not attacking her, but you're not sacrificing yourself either. You're simply stating reality. This is a boundary. It's not mean. It's not cruel. It's clear. And here's what's going to happen next, and this is where most men fail. She's going to test harder. She might get emotional. She might accuse you of being unreasonable. She might even threaten to leave. This is the critical moment. This is where you discover whether you're serious about change or whether you were just play acting. If you maintain your boundary calmly, without anger, without negotiation, you've passed the test. If you cave because you're afraid of losing her, you've taught her that your boundaries are negotiable and the disrespect will intensify. Boundaries without consistency are wishes. You must be consistent every single time. Because what you're doing is establishing a new operating system for the relationship. You're teaching through action, not words. And women are brilliant at reading consistency. They can sense immediately whether your boundary is real or just a temporary performance. Consistency communicates, this is who I am. This isn't a game. This isn't manipulation. This is my standard. And that consistency, that unshakable quality, is profoundly attractive because it represents reliability in a world of chaos. Remember what Seneca taught. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. When she resists your boundaries, she's actually giving you an opportunity to strengthen your resolve. Don't view resistance as failure. View it as necessary friction. The Stoic embraces resistance because resistance reveals character. If you collapse at the first sign of pushback, you've revealed that your character is weak. But if you remain calm, grounded, unmoved by emotional manipulation, you've demonstrated the very strength she's been testing for. Something remarkable happens when you consistently maintain boundaries, usually within 2 to 4 weeks, and I've seen this pattern repeat thousands of times. The dynamic shifts. She starts treating you differently. There's more respect in her tone, more consideration in her actions, more genuine attraction in her behavior. Why? Because you've demonstrated something rare. You're a man who knows his worth and acts accordingly. That's the transformation of respect through demonstrated value. And here's what most men don't understand about feminine energy. Women want to be able to relax into their feminine nature, but they can only do that with a man they trust to hold masculine structure. When you provide that structure, not through force, but through unshakable self-respect, you give her permission to be soft, to be vulnerable, to be feminine. That's the gift of your strength. She's been waiting for a man strong enough that she doesn't have to be. Now, some women won't adjust. Some women are so addicted to control, so wounded by their past, that they cannot exist in a healthy dynamic. And if she leaves, that's not failure, that's clarification. You've discovered that you were incompatible. Better to discover that now than after marriage, after children, after decades of quiet desperation. A woman who can only be satisfied when disrespecting you is not a woman you want to build a life with. Her leaving is the trash taking itself out. Here's the thing that's going to sound counterintuitive but is absolutely essential. Stop making relationships your primary focus. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. If your life revolves around getting or keeping a woman, you've already lost. Because you're living from scarcity, not abundance. You're living as if her approval is the prize, when the actual prize is becoming a man of such value that you have options. That's the inverted priority. Focus on building yourself and relationships become natural byproducts. Women are attracted to competence. Period. Not pickup lines, not manipulation tactics. Competence. When you're genuinely focused on your mission, whether that's building a business, mastering a craft, developing your physical capacity, or contributing something meaningful to the world, you emanate a quality that cannot be faked. You become what Jung called individuated. You become whole. And wholeness is attractive because it's rare. Most men are fragments searching for completion in women. Be complete and you become magnetic. And what does competence actually look like in practice? It means you show up on time. It means you do what you say you're going to do. It means when you encounter a problem, you solve it rather than complaining about it. It means you have skills that are valuable in the world, skills that make you useful, skills that give you confidence because you know you can handle whatever comes your way. Think about it this way. If there was a crisis tomorrow, if the power went out, if there was an emergency, would you be the person others turn to for help? Or would you be the person who needs help? Women are extraordinarily good at detecting this quality. They can sense within minutes of meeting you whether you're someone who creates order out of chaos or someone who creates chaos out of order. That assessment happens quickly and it happens unconsciously. The Stoics called this arete, excellence of character achieved through continuous self-development. Marcus Aurelius spent every morning contemplating how he could become a better version of himself. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because it was his responsibility to maximize his potential. That's the mindset. Every day becomes slightly better, slightly stronger, slightly more skilled, slightly more integrated. That compounding growth, that's what builds genuine confidence. Not the fake confidence of pickup artists, but the quiet certainty of a man who knows his own worth because he's earned it. Start with your body. And I mean this literally. Get into the gym. Lift heavy weights. Not because you need to look like a bodybuilder, but because physical discipline teaches you that you can do difficult things. Every rep you complete when your muscles are burning teaches your nervous system, I can tolerate discomfort for future benefit. That lesson transfers everywhere. The man who can't discipline his body sure as heck can't discipline his life. And discipline, voluntary confrontation with difficulty, is the foundation of character. Read constantly. Read philosophy. Read psychology. Read history. Read about men who faced challenges far greater than yours and persevered. When you fill your mind with wisdom, you're downloading the software of high-quality thinking. You're giving yourself frameworks for understanding reality. And that understanding makes you calm in situations that would cause others to panic. Women notice that calm. They're drawn to it because it signals cognitive capacity, the ability to think clearly under pressure. Find your mission. What are you here to accomplish? What impact do you want to have? What problem do you want to solve? When you have a mission larger than yourself, women become contextual, not central. She becomes someone who either supports your mission or doesn't. And that frame, I'm building something important, and you're welcome to join if you're aligned, is infinitely more attractive than please like me, I'll do anything. Your mission gives you power. It gives you purpose. It gives you something to wake up for that has nothing to do with her approval. Build a brotherhood. Surround yourself with men who are also committed to growth, who hold you accountable, who won't let you slip into mediocrity. The ancient warriors knew this. Men become great in the company of other men who demand greatness. Your social circle should elevate you, challenge you, and celebrate your victories without envy. That network of strong relationships provides emotional resilience that prevents you from becoming dependent on any single woman for validation. And let me tell you something about this that's particularly important. When you have a solid group of men around you, men who are pursuing their own excellence, you create a standard against which you measure yourself. You're not comparing yourself to her expectations anymore. You're comparing yourself to men who are actually doing the work, who are building businesses, who are developing their skills, who are contributing to their communities. That comparison is healthy because it's rooted in reality, not in the shifting sands of female approval. I've seen this transformation countless times in my clinical practice and in my own life. When a man starts investing in male friendships, when he starts showing up for other men and allowing other men to show up for him, his entire relationship dynamic changes. He becomes less needy, less desperate, less willing to tolerate disrespect. Why? Because he has other sources of connection, other sources of meaning, other sources of validation that have nothing to do with romantic relationships. Here's the paradox. The less you need her, the more she wants you. When you have a rich life filled with purpose, with friendships, with challenges you're actively overcoming, she becomes optional. Not unimportant, but optional. And that optional quality changes everything. You're no longer negotiating from weakness. You're no longer afraid of losing her because you know you'll be fine either way. That's abundance mentality. And women can sense it immediately. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy in the modern sense, but freedom from enslaving emotions. You care about her, yes, but you're not enslaved to the outcome. You're not emotionally reactive to her tests. You remain centered regardless of her behavior. And that centered quality, that unshakable frame, is hypnotic. It communicates, I am not a leaf blown by your emotional winds. I am an oak tree. I bend only according to my own principles. That's the attractive indifference of a man who knows his worth. When you've built yourself properly, the relationship becomes an invitation, not a negotiation. You're essentially saying, I'm building something magnificent. I'm on a path toward excellence. You're welcome to join this journey if you're aligned with where I'm going. But I'm going there regardless. That frame, that absolute commitment to your path, is what transforms you from a supplicant to a selector. And selection power is the ultimate form of relationship power because it's based on genuine value, not manipulation. So let me bring this together. You are not powerless in your relationships. You've simply been operating under a false framework. A framework that told you that niceness equals attraction, that sacrifice equals love, that people-pleasing equals relationship success. None of that is true. The truth is harder but infinitely more rewarding. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Leadership is taking responsibility. Boundaries are acts of self-love. And your primary obligation isn't to make her happy. It's to become the kind of man who's capable of building something worth being happy about. This isn't easy. The path of self-development never is. but it's the only path that leads somewhere worth going. It's the path that leads to genuine self-respect, to relationships built on mutual admiration rather than need, to a life where you're the author of your story rather than a supporting character in someone else's. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, identify one boundary you've been violating, just one, and commit to holding it for the next 30 days. Watch what happens. Watch how people respond. Watch how you feel about yourself. And if you're serious about this journey, if you want to continue developing into the man you're capable of becoming, subscribe to PsycheLens. Hit that notification bell. Because we're going to continue exploring these ideas, going deeper into the psychology of attraction, masculinity, and self-development. But remember, knowledge without action is just entertainment. Take what you've learned here today and apply it. Start small. Be consistent. Be patient with yourself. And never, ever compromise your self-respect for someone else's approval. The world needs strong men, not tyrants, not doormats. Strong, principled, grounded men who can provide leadership, structure, and security in an increasingly chaotic world. Be that man. Your future self is watching what you do next.